And also, big followings on social media doesn't necessarily equal big revenue in your business. And you'll have marketers and business coaches say this all the time. There's things that you think that you need that you don't really need to be successful in business. Like, I know plenty of people. In fact, I have one founder that I'm working with that I'm mentoring right now who's been in business for 18 years and has a multiple seven-figure business and has never had a website. Hello. I feel completely overwhelmed by social media and I absolutely hate it. If that's you, this episode of the Scalable Marketing Machine podcast is for you. I have been getting this question over and over again. What do you do when you feel completely burned out by social media? So that's what we're going to discuss today. I'm going to give you 5 ideas on how you can end the overwhelm with social media. So let's dig into it. So, what's the problem? I think the problem is that we feel so connected to social media. Why? Because we're all in our own ways addicted to social media, right? The platforms are designed that way. And I think more so than any other aspect of marketing, it's a place where we spend the most time personally interacting. And so, as founders and as entrepreneurs, it's also a place that seeds a lot of ideas, right? As founders, we're always peeking in on our competitors or different brands and kind of understanding what other people are doing. And it's a place where we can feel a lot of shame and a lot of FOMO. And I think this really contributes to that overwhelm. I think we get, onto Instagram, for example, or into TikTok, and we see a brand that's crushing it or a competitor that's crushing it. And we just feel maybe this sadness, right? If we're not doing as well as our competitors or brands that we want to emulate. And so I think at its core, there's so many layers by in which like social media produces shame in all of us, right? On sort of the lifestyle and personal level, there's a lot of so many studies about how social media negatively affects our psyche. But as founders, I feel like this problem goes even deeper, right? I think we go in, we see what other brands are doing, what other competitors are doing, and we say to ourselves, how come we don't have X amount of followers? How come we don't have X amount of engagement? How come we're not producing creative to the quality of the competitors that we have, right? So we can begin to feel really overwhelmed by just peeking in on what everyone else is doing, and more so than looking at someone's websites or their emails. I think social media in itself can be very assaulting, right? The other thing is that if we go in and we try to participate, engage in social media, show up on social media for our company, it also is incredibly distracting. And this happens to me all the time. And I say this quite frequently on the podcast. I regularly delete all of the apps on my phone for social media. Like, I end up having to bring them back, of course, because I am a marketer. But I really frequently just take them off. I would prefer to manage my social like comments and whatever through scheduling platforms than being in the actual app. But of course, you can't avoid it, right? But the problem is that if you go in to do something, right, to engage consciously with your audience, right, to answer questions, to answer DMs, to post reels, for example, on Instagram, you are really like, it's like a David and Goliath kind of feat to get off of it. Because of course, once you get into the social platform, it is so it sucks you in. It is so addictive. And so you could go and try to do something really great for your business. Like, I'm going to post a reel every day on Instagram and have that be a growth strategy, and show up. But that takes you like an hour because you get sucked in and you get down the rabbit hole. It's very, very difficult to pull yourself out from. So I think that there's a lot of reasons why we feel completely burnt out from social media. But as business owners, as founders, or as marketers, we know that it's like a necessary evil, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about, mm, I hope to give you a different way of looking at social media. And we're going to talk about the good things and the bad things about social media as it relates to revenue in our business, because that's ultimately, I think, what we care the most about. Okay, so before we get started into some of my tips, I do want to say, I show up on social media every single day across platforms. And the way that I do that is with a scheduling tool. Now, I want to say this with a caveat. I have been able to grow my business to well beyond six figures without really growing a crazy following on any of the social platforms. And I say this to you because it's not necessary to have a big following on social media. And also, big followings on social media doesn't necessarily equal big revenue in your business. And you'll have marketers and business coaches say this all the time. There's things that you think that you need that you don't really need to be successful in business. Like, I know plenty of people. In fact, I have one founder that I'm working with that I'm mentoring right now who's been in business for 18 years and has a multiple seven-figure business and has never had a website. So it is absolutely possible to have success without needing all these things that we think we need, right? And so what is the point of social media? That's kind of like the second sort of, or the first topic I want to talk about, okay? But I want to just say I show up every single day on social media across platforms because I use a social media scheduling tool. Different marketers and different people have different opinions on the tools. But my highest power, my most important thing, the things that produce actual paying clients to me from social media is because I show up consistently. I don't have to have like the wildest, most creative content, the most viral content, the most engaging content, but slow and steady wins the race. If you are someone that follows me or has liked any of my content, chances are you see my stuff every single time you open up LinkedIn because the algorithm just keeps feeding it to you and feeding it to you, right? And so the higher power in all of this content that you're producing is, do I show up for people and do I stay in front of mind for people that are in my world, right? I only have a couple thousand people that follow me on LinkedIn, but I've gotten clients from them tuning into a podcast, them seeing a post, them reaching out to me via DM, and have been able to build a successful business on the backs of that. Alternatively, I've come into work with clients when I come into them and they've got hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. But when we look at the data and we say, how many sales come from Instagram, for example, maybe we can attribute one or two sales that come from Instagram. So we need to get clear on what are our objectives. And that's the first thing I want to talk about. That's the number one strategy that you can put into place to kind of end this social media burnout, is taking a step back and really thinking about, what is my goal with social media? Okay. And so we have to first level set on, what is the platform that I am focused on as a brand, as a business. And I truly believe that if you're going to find success on any of the platforms, that you need to focus on one platform only. This is like the hardest part. And this is why this is where the FOMO really kicks in. And I am also susceptible to it. Like, I just had to kind of slap myself around in the past like 2-3 weeks, because I know that LinkedIn is my place. I love LinkedIn. I show in a LinkedIn Live to record my podcast each and every week. I've gotten more business from LinkedIn than any of the other platforms. And yet I'm still pulled by that FOMO to say, like, oh, what should I be doing on Instagram? TikTok, right? But no, like, realigning with what is the goal and making sure that your target client is on the platform that you spend the most time and the one that you put the most effort into. For me, I'm lucky because LinkedIn is my spot. I find clients here, but I personally enjoy LinkedIn better than any other platform. When I get into TikTok and I get into Instagram, me personally, I end I literally close the session feeling like I need to take a shower. I feel like I wasted time. I feel like I've been sitting on the couch covered in potato chips for like the 30 minutes that I get sucked into a rabbit hole, and it doesn't make my life better. LinkedIn, on the other hand, I think is super interesting. I always learn something when I'm here. I get inspiration, and the people that I follow, like, they contribute to that, right? But something about the format of LinkedIn, it just does not suck me in as much, which is great because that's the second tip. It's like, yes, you need to align your efforts to the platform where your prospects are, but it is really, I think, equally as important to also choose to engage in the platform that you personally like to be on, right? Because if you're reluctantly like getting into the platform or not paying any attention to it, yeah, you may have a social media manager, but I still think it's important that you are connected to the social platform that you are utilizing for your marketing strategy. And in order for you to be involved in that and to care and to watch the metrics and all of those things, you have to like find some pleasure in the platform because otherwise you'll resent it. Okay. And so I want you to think about that because a lot of us are like playing this uphill battle where we absolutely hate it, right? But we think that we have to actually show up ourselves, and we push ourselves to do it even though we hate it, right? So I want to touch on that topic. So the first is, really looking at your goals with social media. So let's finish that thought. So on social, we have two primary goals: to reach brand new people, so like prospecting to get more followers and ultimately more leads, right? That's what I think, all think that social is really, really good at. I'm going to touch on that. So that's first, right? More leads, more audience, right? Reaching new people. And then the second is to nurture your existing audience. These are the two things we can do on social media. Now, in order to reach new people on social media, you need to be playing the algorithm game that is most current. Because typically, when you're posting things on social media, you're barely even reaching the people that are currently following you. So, in order to be growing and really like gaining new followers, yes, it's if you're posting regularly, they'll trickle in little by little. But to get that kind of like windfall and for things to go viral, right, which is really like the dream, um, typically we need to be really understanding what are the elements that are going, making posts go viral right now. You need to stay current with that. And you have to be consistent and playing that game. And the reason why I really hate social media as a lead generation strategy, that you're relying on, is the fact that like that algorithm can change at any moment. Like you are in by no means in control of the game. And so a strategy that was really great for prospecting and getting new people and new followers into your world today may be totally different tomorrow, or it may just not exist in the future, right? It just depends on how the platform, um, how the algorithm is kind of pushing out content and what is most important for the business, for the platform as a business, right? And let me tell you, what is the platform's highest power? How are we going to keep people on the platform longer so we can showcase to our advertisers that this space is filled with the people that they want to advertise to? So they want people to stay on platform and engage, and they also want us pumping out a huge amount of content for them, right, to help build, have this train going. So the platform itself is going to reward brands and founders or whatever that are consistently creating content, utilizing the tools, being involved in the platform, but creating good content that's engaging for people and ultimately keep people on the platform longer, which, by the way, is really at odds with our goals as founders, business owners, and marketers, right? As founders, business owners, and marketers, we want people to join our email lists or to come check out our sales pages, right? We want to make sales through social, but the platform is not, that's not in their best interest. They don't want people jumping off the platform. And so this is why we find it really hard to like attribute those sales to social media because, and also why, by the way, the platform makes it very difficult to put like direct links, right? In Instagram, you really like, unless you reach a certain amount of followers, you can't even put a link in the reels or in the stories. And you only get one link available on Instagram profile. And same goes true for LinkedIn, right? We can put like one link back on our profiles for LinkedIn. But of course, this is because the business objectives of the platform is not necessarily in line with what you need as a business owner. So we need to be really careful with prospecting and lead generation with social, right? Yes, it's great to get leads, followers. It feels really good, right? But we can call that a vanity metric in a lot of ways because what really is important is how many of these followers are like raising their hand and saying, I'm interested in what your brand does and what you do. And if you tuned into the episode, if you tune into this week's episode, the one that aired on the podcast yesterday, I talked with a conversion rate optimization expert, Jake, and we went through, we had a really great discussion, but part of it was, how come viral videos don't necessarily produce revenue? And the reason is because a lot of times we're gaining a lot of followers through these viral videos that are like humorous or whatever, but oftentimes these viral things, they don't have anything to do with what we do. And when people start following you, typically it's just like a knee-jerk reaction because they liked the content, but maybe they're not necessarily prospects for you. So we constantly have to be playing this game of who are our followers, but how do we know of the followers who could be serious buyers, right? A follower does not necessarily equal a lead, right? Um, so because of the instability of the algorithm and just the uncertainty of, a long-term strategy of being able to get brand new leads and followers from the content that we put out on social, I really think I like to view any leads that come through social is like icing on the cake, but it's not part of my core lead generation strategy. So, what is social media best used for? It's best for nurturing our existing followers. Why? Because when you're in someone's feed, right? What you have, the opportunity you have is to be building that like, know, and trust factor, right? Establishing yourself or your brand as an authority or as adding value as relating to what your product or service is, right? And getting our prospects, our followers, interested and ready to buy. This is something that we have a little bit more control over, right? And so that's why when we talk about adding value all the time, we're doing that because we're getting these prospects interested and ready to buy with us, right? We're building our case for why we are the right choice to purchase with if they're in the market to buy whatever our product or service is. So we need to understand that as a goal. And we need to be a little bit less concerned with, um, things going viral and more concerned with how am I nurturing and building the relationship with the existing followers I have and any of the new followers that I'm getting, each and every day and each and every week. Because if you're consistent on the platform, things will grow, things will start to pop off, whatever. But if we are feeling burnt out by social media, we need to get out of this like rat race mentality of, needing to do like the freshest, newest thing all the time and showing up physically in real life all of the time. No, we want to be making sure that we are showing up every day. And we do that through batching content and scheduling posts out. It doesn't have to be in real time, right? Because we want to show up. Every time we show up on someone's feed, it's like a commercial they're watching of our business, right? And of our brand. And they're just being reminded of what we do and how we serve and how we can solve their problem, right? So I think thinking about it in a little bit of a different way has saved my sanity, right? And I've been able to look outside social media to say, okay, social media is one channel, but what are the other ways in which I can get more leads and into my business in a way that feels really good to me? The next thing I wanted to talk about is, hold on, I've got number two. Okay. So, number two, you don't necessarily have to be the face. Okay. So, I talk to women all the time that have this dialogue. I know that I need to be showing up more on social media, but I just don't like it. I feel icky. I need to get over that. If I'm serious about growing my business, I need to like just put on my big girl pants and show up every single day on social media and be like the clown for my business. And if that is something that you like and enjoy, it is very, very useful for you. Do it all the way. Okay. If you're someone that truly enjoys showing up on social media, and so many business owners have that personality where they really do like kind of being the face of the business and it brings them real joy and satisfaction. If that's you, you're lucky because it is a great strategy and it is absolutely going to grow your business and people want to do business with people, right? However, if that is not you and it's painful every single time you show up, don't worry. I've seen an amazing trend of brands, product brands, for example, that have put someone else as the face of their business, right? So I like to use this example with the founders that I mentor because I think it's really great. There's the skincare company that the products that I love. It's called Primally Pure. And Primally Pure is like a women-owned business and it's a small company and it's great and the products are absolutely fabulous. But if you go to their social media, I've seen a couple posts about their founder and I know that they did during the holiday season, like a gifting guide that the founder's face was on or whatever. But the day to day content is now primarily pure. Okay, it's a skincare company and it's all natural, right? So the face of the company, and this is so clever, is this holistic esthetician that's not the founder who shows up almost as the brand ambassador. And this is a really cool strategy for product-based businesses where if you don't want to be showing up founder as like, the entertainment and the main show of the business, you can choose someone that is if they're an influencer already, that is great, or a fan, a current fan of your product or whatever, and then have someone else be the face of the company. It doesn't necessarily have to be you. The strategy there is that people want to connect with people. And so if your brand doesn't have any kind of humanity to it, it becomes, it becomes less desirable for people, especially with smaller businesses, right? A lot of time people buy small because they want to make an impact, they want to connect, they want to support smaller businesses, and it is nice to put a face to that. But you can build a strategy that doesn't involve you having to do all the work yourself. As a founder, you already do so much, right? So if you don't find joy from it, then don't do it. For me personally, I don't love clowning around on Instagram, but I really, really love teaching. And that's why I show up to record my podcast live on LinkedIn and why I choose um, a podcast as my nurture strategy. It's because this is what I truly love. I connect with it. Now, if you love to write, writing could be kind of the way that you connect with your audience, right? You don't have to just be doing dances and trying to make viral videos. It's not the only way. I think that the other thing to think about is like there's a lot of different ways that you can grow your business, right? Showing up on Instagram and doing viral, trying to do viral reels is only one option, right? But I really believe that if you choose something that you personally like, that personally interests you, and you go all the way in, so maybe that's a podcast, or maybe showing up on YouTube, or writing a weekly blog, or a really great newsletter, that could be the catalyst for converting your audience into paying customers, right? That could really be the catalyst to grow your business. The major point here is the amount of focus and attention that you put into just those one or two key strategies instead of going against the grain, doing something that you don't like just because you think everyone else is doing it. So, how do you avoid burnout from social media? Well, realizing that you don't have to put your heart and soul into doing something that you don't love, right? And that's the first step, is to answer that question like, in this whole marketing thing, right? Because as founders, the founders that I mentor, which I specialize in helping women get from 6 to 7 figures. So in that 6 figure range, chances are you're very involved in sales and marketing. You don't have a chief marketing officer or a marketing director and a full stacked marketing team. You're probably very hands-on in the marketing department. And so the first question you need to answer is like, what brings me joy? And this is where you want to lean into, because if you're enjoying the process, your prospects are going to feel that, right? And again, whether it's you physically showing up your face on a podcast or on YouTube, or even you directing the team, if it's something that you love and you check into and you're interested in learning the strategies and understanding those algorithms and all that stuff, all of that's going to contribute to the success of it. But when you're trying to go against the grain on something, like executing the things that you have no interest in, you don't like, you don't want any part of, that's going to show up in the results. Okay. So that is my tangent on social media, right? How do we avoid burnout? Because I think that social media is the number one place where people really feel the burnout the most. They feel, you know, this pressure that they need to be doing things manually themselves. They feel stressed if they're not seeing the numbers growing and all these things. But as we talked about, we don't need to have a crazy amount of followers, right? Um, to actually increase our revenue. There's a lot of different ways that we can grow our business. It doesn't have to necessarily be through you personally showing up on social media. So understanding that as step one is really important for relieving this burnout, because that can, you can breathe and you can step back and say, what are the things that I enjoy here? Because I know for certain that if you kind of stay working in your like zone of genius, so to speak, right? The things that bring you joy, the things that you're the best at, that's how you're going to see results quickest. Not by constantly fighting an uphill battle, doing things that you don't like, or reluctantly trying to get everything off your plate and just paying someone to fix it for you, right? That doesn't always work, right? So taking ownership of what are the marketing pieces, what are the marketing activities that I'm really going to commit to, that my team's going to really commit to, and I'm really going to grow and learn. Because you growing and learning in these different tactics that you deploy for your marketing program, that's going to make all the difference in the results that you see. So that's it for this week's episode of the Scalable Marketing Machine podcast. I hope it was helpful for you guys. If you feel stressed out about marketing, let me know. If you feel stressed out about social media and totally burnt out from social media, let me know. I would love to give you more tips and tricks on how we can make a little bit more ease and a little bit more lightness in any of the things that we execute for marketing. And if you feel like you are stuck or you've plateaued, also, let me know what you're up against. Send me a DM here on LinkedIn, or if you're listening to the podcast, I'm Victoria Hajar, Hajjar. You can find me, follow me, connect with me, send me a DM, and I can answer one of your questions on the podcast. I would love to do so. So until next week, I will see you back here live on LinkedIn every Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, or you can catch the podcast recording every Thursday. They release every Thursday on any of your choice podcast listening platforms, Apple or Spotify or whatever thing like that. It's called the Scalable Marketing Machine podcast. Thank you so much for being here. It means so much to me, this community here on LinkedIn. And yeah, reach out if you want me to answer your question. See you back here next week.